Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating story. It's about immense success and national pride, but it also hides a dangerous secret, a trap that even the most powerful organizations can fall right into. It sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? But what if the very things that make an organization great, its culture, its expertise, its whole structure, what if those things end up becoming the very chains that hold it back? So, let's meet our case study, Electricité de France, or as most people know it, EDF. For over half a century, this company wasn't just a utility, no way. It was a symbol of French engineering brilliance, a real cornerstone of the nation's economy. And that, right there, is the heart of our story. See, EDF was perfectly designed for a stable, predictable world where it was the undisputed king. But today, that world is ancient history. It's been replaced by deregulation, fierce competition, and just constant, non-stop change. So the big question is this: can this giant, a company forged in a world of monopoly, actually learn to fight in a completely new arena? To figure that out, we have to go back, way back, to the very beginning. To really get what EDF is dealing with today, you have to understand its origins. So let's jump in the time machine and go back to 1946, right after the Second World War. Okay, so in May of 1946, EDF was born from this absolutely colossal merger of over 1,300 separate, smaller companies, and it was given one monumental task: power the reconstruction of France. That's it. From day one, EDF's DNA was just coded for a very specific purpose. You gotta understand, this wasn't just a business, it was a nation-building project. The mission of public service was everything. The culture, totally dominated by engineers who were laser-focused on one thing: production. And its structure had to be super centralized to manage this massive new national monopoly. And for the challenges of that time, this DNA made them incredibly effective. And you know what? For decades, that DNA served them incredibly well. In fact, EDF became a master of adaptation, successfully navigating these huge strategic shifts time and time again. I mean, this company could pivot on a massive scale. First, they literally built the nation with hydropower dams. Then, as the economy started to boom, they switched to cheaper, faster-to-build fuel oil plants. And then came the biggest pivot of all, and it was triggered by a global crisis. Just look at how dramatic that first big pivot was. In 1959, hydropower was the king, providing 56% of its electricity. But just 15 years later, fuel oil had rocketed up to 43%, and hydropower's share was cut in half. This was a company that could move mountains to meet the needs of the day. Then the 1973 oil crisis hits. The price of oil is skyrocketing, and France and EDF make an incredibly bold bet. They decided to go all in on nuclear power. They launched one of the most ambitious nuclear construction programs the world has ever seen. And the result? Absolutely astonishing. By the late 1980s, 75%, 3/4 of all electricity in France was generated by nuclear power. It was an unparalleled success, both technically and strategically. EDF had secured France's energy independence and gave them some of the cheapest electricity in Europe. They were, quite literally, on top of the world. But this is exactly where our story takes a turn, because it was right there, at the absolute peak of this success, that the trap was set. All those victories, all that expertise, it all started to harden, to crystallize into something rigid. Now, this whole phenomenon has a name: organizational inertia. It sounds fancy, but it's a pretty simple idea. You become a victim of your own success. It's when the way we've always done things stops being a source of strength and starts being a barrier to your very survival. So, how does this actually happen? Well, for EDF, its powerful public service culture, which used to be such a great motivator, now resists a competitive mindset. Its centralized structure, perfect for a monopoly, is just too slow for a fast-moving market. Its world-class nuclear skills, not as useful when the market demands flexibility. And those huge nuclear power plants, they represent a massive investment that locks them into a single path for decades to come. And right here, the paradox just becomes crystal clear. Every single one of EDF's celebrated strengths has a dark side in the modern world. That massive nuclear fleet, a symbol of independence, is now super inflexible. The public service mission makes it really hard to think like a scrappy competitor. Centralized control, which used to be efficient, is now just slow. And a culture of brilliant engineers struggles to adopt the customer-first focus that modern markets absolutely demand. This all leads us to the final critical dilemma for EDF, and honestly, for any long-standing organization out there. Now, let's be clear. EDF knows this is a problem. They're not just sitting around. The company is actively trying to change. It's investing billions abroad, it's pushing into new energy services, and it's trying to reform its internal structure. But, and this is a big but, changing the very DNA of a company this large and this successful is an incredibly slow and painful process. So here's the bottom line. EDF is caught between two powerful forces. On one hand, it still has incredible assets. Its technical know-how is truly second to none. But on the other hand, it's handicapped by a culture and a structure that were perfected for a world that is long gone. Its greatest strengths have become its greatest weaknesses. And that leaves us with one last thought. The story of EDF isn't just about some French utility. It's a lesson for every successful company, every team, heck, even for any one of us. It forces us to stop and ask, is our history, our success, our identity, is it a blueprint that can guide us forward? Or has it become a prison that's locking us in the past?